Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Tea and Overtones. Today we're going to brew a black tea. And I use the word black tea because generally Indian teas are referred to as black teas, although Chinese black teas are referred to as red tea. Now, when you look at this Indian tea we're about to open, you'll see that it's quite black in color. That's oxidized tea, as opposed to green tea, which is exactly the same plant, but is not as oxidized. In other words, hasn't been let out into the air as much, allowed in the air as much, and so it retains its greenness. But when it's oxidized and put out into the environment more, it turns black or red, whatever you prefer. This is a tea that was given to me as a gift around 9 months ago. I haven't opened it yet, so I'm very excited to see what it's about. But before we go there, let's talk again about the preparation we want to make with our tea. We want to have a scene from nature, ideally some lovely flowers. And these are from my back garden. Or you could just pick a sprig or a branch or something. We want to kind of relax and have a pleasure. And also we want to have a nice ceramic element, something that we just go once, when I'm holding this, it's such a pleasure. And this piece here, ceramic, again, it's a piece from Los Angeles. Very, very pleased to be able to get good ceramics in Los Angeles, and it's got a nice curve here and nice feel, nice smooth feel, nice color. So it always gives me pleasure when I'm drinking out of this teacup. Of course, you may be more traditional with your tea, and today really when we look at black tea, it kind of takes me back a little bit because I was raised on tea. Being an English person, that's all we had. I remember I was probably about 11 years old. My parents went on vacation. We went to Belgium. And we went to Belgium and of course we ordered a cup of tea. I mean, English tourists in those days were just terrible. I mean, that's all they wanted was, as soon as they got anywhere, they wanted a cup of tea. And they brought us tea and it came in tea bags. Well, tea bags. We were laughing, we were outraged, we were just like, tea bags. And so we just went with the program and the tea bags, we dunked the tea bags, whatever. We figured out how to work with tea bags. We were quite dismissive of it and didn't appreciate it at all. And I just remembered that moment when we were kind of like, tea bags. Of course, everybody has tea bags now, because in those days you used to kind of do what we're going to do today. It was a teaspoonful of tea, and oftentimes one for the pot, they would say. They would add another teaspoon. However many teaspoons you were putting in, one for the pot, you would add another one. I guess I grew up with PG Tips or whatever the other brands were that I've forgotten, but they were just common. And then there used to be a very high class tea. If you really wanted to go high class, you'd get a Darjeeling. Well, today we're going to have a Darjeeling. This is the top of the line of a company called Vadam Teas. Vahdam, comes from India. And their approach is that it's a kind of a single estate. It's a one private estate. They pick the tea leaves by hand, they package them immediately, and then they ship them. And so it's a one-shop stop. They don't have a middle person. Everything goes to them, and they are able to make it more affordable and also support their workers more. So that's the deal with Vadam, and you can go and check out their teas. This was a gift, so we'll see what it looks like. Got my hot water with tea. Again, always there's this alchemical situation, right? We've got the tea itself, making sure that it's a good quality tea, and certainly I know that this is a quality tea. Then we've got the water. We want to make sure we have purified water, decent water. Then we've got to get the temperature of the water correct, and that's very important. And then we've got to brew it for the correct time. Too much, it can get bitter. Too little, it can be underdone. It's got to be just right, that Goldilocks moment, and then we'll see. Now, I'm told here that a teaspoonful of tea or 2 grams. I'm actually interested to see what a teaspoon is. If it is 2 grams, they say it's 200 milliliters of water, which I know from my glass teapot what that was approximately about. So I have that lined up. I have the water boiled at the right temperature, and they say to steep for I think it says 3 to 5 minutes or 2 to 3 minutes. It's quite a long time. With green tea, I usually only want to steep for a minute and a half. So this would be a bit lengthier. So hotter water, a longer steep time. Let's see what happens when we do this. Before we start though, anytime we're doing tea, we want to make sure we get into a relaxed space. We don't want to rush through tea, not the way that we're doing it in the harmonic self, not with tea and overtones. We want to take our time. So we could ask for the light, for the highest good, of course. We could just take a moment, just ask that the tea be blessed, that the water be blessed, that this moment be blessed. We could, for the highest good, and we could also, itadakimasu, I receive. So we always want to create that kind of environment where we can just relax into. I also have a tea canister here. It's a new one. I got it online from Amazon, I believe. And it's got a plastic top here to seal it. And then again, you have another top. Very pleasant looking, not washi paper, just all metallic, but a very nice print. I'm very pleased with it. And so you can get really nice stuff on Amazon. Brand new. I kind of put up some wet towels in there just to take away. I don't want to put water in here because it gets in the crevices and can rust. So I just dab it, let it air, and then I'm ready. The reason it's empty, the reason I have it is because as soon as I've opened this, I don't really like to have packets lying around. It's much neater to have this. And so I usually cut out the label, put some Scotch tape on the bottom so that I know which tea it is, should I need to know. So this moment of coming into awareness of ourselves is very important. We're going to discuss that. First, let's see what we're going to do with this tea. And again, cutting it open here. Very exciting. Anytime there's a new tea, I'm always very excited because that initial aroma, that's the key. Shake it. It kind of has a floral aroma, quite interesting actually, quite interesting. So I'm going to, per the instructions, just take a teaspoonful, there's a teaspoonful, and that comes out to, that's not really 2 grams, so I'm going to actually do another teaspoonful here. I'm glad I checked, that wouldn't have been a terribly strong tea, a little bit too overdone here. So this scale, it was quite inexpensive really, but it actually measures each leaf that I'm doing. Now I'm going to see if you can see this or not. I'll try and bring it closer. It's not as black as I thought it was. It's kind of a more greenish color, lighter than I thought. So I don't know if you can get a good view of that. Quite interesting. So we just got about 2 grams here. We can just pop this in. I love this little tea measuring, very handy, especially when they talk about 2 grams and 3 grams and you don't know what they're talking about. Also, my kettle also boils according to temperature. So, that was another point. I have a tea kettle that you set the temperature of the tea so that I know how much, if I need it at 100, at 185 degrees or 170 degrees, which I would often need for green tea, for example. But this is pretty hot water. This is boiling. So we're just going to let that steep. Doesn't seem like with a green tea it needs that much accuracy. Sometimes I will set a stopwatch and do that. So now we can start pouring the tea in here now and canister it so that I know it's going to stay fresh. And then I don't have to worry, because even though I can seal the tea, oftentimes it's not as sealing. And I think it's much more pleasant to just open a lovely canister like this and dish out the tea. Again, ritual, I think, is really vital here. Vital for just the feeling of the tea. So we've talked a lot about relaxing, and we talk a lot about being present with our tea moment. And here's what I would like you to start thinking about. Thinking about the person you are when you're at your best. When you're at your most relaxed and present and pleasant. Present and pleasant. Pleasant, just, John Roger talks about a pleasant disposition being a very kind of high state of consciousness, really. That we're just being pleasant. We're not needy or looking for approval. When is it that you're most relaxed? And some of you may think, well, let me just give you some hints. When you've had a massage, and you just go, oh, I just feel so good. Or when you've had a vacation, when you've, had time off, when you've just taken time to go to the beach, perhaps, or you've gone for a swim, or you've had sex, or you're in love. I mean, any of those situations that you can just replicate inside of you where you just go, and then you just move into that space as if you were there right now. Just you just have that feeling that everything is okay, that the cares and the worries are just off of you. It's so important to be able to kind of mock up this state, just to make it present for you. A really vital key, I think, because we get caught up as it's like, oh, I don't know how to relax. I don't know how to get back in. Oh my God, there's so many things. There's so much uncertainty. Go back to that moment when you were at your best, when you had no worries, when you just were able to let go, and you felt that let go, and you went, oh my God, I wish I was like this all the time. Well, guess what? You actually can be like that all the time. This is a choice that we have as human beings. And I'd like you to do that as we get into the tea, where you're saying, oh my God, look, I'm surrounded by beauty, which is one of the reasons that we do this. I call it tea and overtones because I like overtones, has a very significant spiritual meaning for me. But I could call it tea and gratitude just as much. I mean, tea and gratitude would be just as fitting, because when we have our cup of tea, we want to be in a state of gratitude. So, the best person that you are. I'm so relaxed. I have a smile on my face. You may have pictures of yourself where you just came back from vacation, or there was that moment when you were so happy. Maybe you graduated, and it was just like, you have those moments when you can enter into that space. You just instantaneously, the weight just falls off of your shoulders. It's almost like this melting down, and then the kind of radiance comes out of your face, and suddenly it's just like, wow, I'm here. Yeah, everything is okay. You're in that kind of chilled place, but just really present, here and now, happy, grateful, and just like, yeah, everything's okay. It's really good. And you got that kind of nodding thing, that nodding, knowing everything's good. There's not a lot to say when you're in that space. That's what's so funny. So just in that relaxed space. So with that, we're going to pour our tea. Firstly, I brought the glass, my glass cup here, just to see the color of it. And I expected it to be a lot darker. This is kind of a light yellow, kind of a urine color, actually. I'm a little dark urine color, and not a particularly good thing to say. But I mean, that's what it reminded me of when I saw it. Not that would be a healthy urine color, but you know what I mean. So it's kind of this yellowish tinge, and surprisingly light. So this is obviously a very special tea company, which specializes in a kind of have this pure tea. It's not as oxidized as I would have thought. So I'm going to pour the rest of the tea. I don't want it just stewing too much. I don't know how many steepings this is going to give me. Maybe it's just one. It should be able to give a couple of steepings. Again, I like to shake it up a little bit so that all the water gets out, so it's not taking well, not stewing really in the tea. So that's good. We'll just wait for that to cool off a little bit since the water was so hot. So again, we want to do everything with a kind of a gracefulness. And when we're relaxed, when we're in this place when we're at our best, where we have this pleasant disposition, this like, it's, so people say, oh God, it's so nice being around you. Oh my goodness, I'm so glad I spoke to you because I just feel so much better. And you haven't done anything. All you've done, you haven't done, all you've just been is being yourself. And in a way, we have to fake it until we actually get there. We know what it's like. We've been there before. So we have to kind of create the environment within us that allows that best part of ourselves to emerge. Again, we want to do everything slowly and with consciousness. When I'm doing tea, I slow down. That's the key point. Very nice, very delicate, and as I said, almost floral. So this is a nice surprise. I am really impressed. This is not like an English breakfast tea. This is a light tea with a very kind of green, it's almost, I'm a big fan of green teas, a greenness to it. We'll look at other black teas or other red teas and you'll see much more of a darker amber color. So this is really marvelous. I'm actually very, very thrilled because this is the kind of tea that I like. It's got this nice flavor. I tend to go for lighter teas, greener teas. I like a floral, a nuttiness, a sweetness. Very, very, very interesting and a pleasant surprise, and one that I'll be using this tea much more often. Looking forward to seeing if it brews up a nice, good second cup. Oh, it's got a bit on my nose here. And I look forward to completing and finishing that cup of tea in a nice, relaxed way. So please practice being yourself. It sounds ridiculous, but so much we're practicing being somebody else. We bought into the worldview of what we should be. And it's almost like a door closes and we forget who we are. When we open that door and we allow ourselves to emerge as we are, then life becomes magical, full of wonder, full of grace, and full of gratitude. Until our next tea moment, Bevush Beshan.